My name is Belle, and we're here with the Awakeningyouniverse podcast. We're here with Julie. She's my first guest, so I applaud Julie for getting on here, sharing her story. Julie, I'm so happy that you're here today. I'm so happy to chat with you because, like you said earlier, longtime follower, never actually spoke in person. So I think to me, it's also very special that I get to talk and just chat and get to know people that I haven't seen for a long time now. So that is very wonderful. That's also why I wanted to do this, because I thought I've got to talk to these people, some way, or just to connect.
Community with people that are spiritually minded.
Exactly.
Always a blessing.
I wanted to do this because I wanted to show people you can just feel connected right here where you are. You do not have to look externally. You can kind of feel connected even if you're just here alone in your room. Sometimes we tend to be alone in our rooms and be like, does anyone feel this way? Or, gosh, I wish I had someone to talk to about this. Or has anyone been through this? This podcast is for you listeners to know that someone out there has felt the way you have. If you want, you can introduce yourself and say who you are and, a little bit about you.
I'm Julie Storm. I met Belen on TikTok, where we all kind of came together and started talking about spirituality, and I really didn't get into it to be I'm an accidental influencer.
You definitely are.
Happened to me.
You are.
Every time I had a video go viral, I would stop posting because it freaked me out. Yeah, it's scary. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of people out there. But yeah, when I saw this kind of mass spiritual awakening seemed to be happening on TikTok, and it was really surprising for me because I'm third generation in this. Mm-hmm. And was raised with all of this, and so for most of my life, a lot of talking about a lot of this stuff either got me in trouble, like at church or whatever it was, and it was just kind of like, let's keep this to ourselves. Mm-hmm. And we'll talk about it with the people that get it. And then suddenly TikTok came along, and it was like there were thousands of people talking about it, which I felt like I'd been waiting for my whole life. I just kind of jumped in and started making content, and here we are.
I love it. That's such a common thing for anyone in the spiritual community. When you feel this way, you're like, who can I talk to about this to help it grow, to just communicate, to just find community? I'm so glad for TikTok. I'm just very glad for it. So I feel you. I also I'm very young, so I wasn't in church at all. My mom tried getting me into it, but it just didn't click with my heart. It really did not click with my soul. So like you, I also just was like, I need to just talk about this at least to my phone, like my phone's going to listen. Because nobody understood, you probably looked at it as very just off-putting, very weird for the things you were saying. Like, oh my God, I'm not even talking a different language. I'm just talking the soul's language, but no one really heard me. So I'm glad that we were both able to find a community that genuinely heard us, made us feel seen. I do look at you and I'm like, oh my God, she should just post more, but it's scary. No, it's so scary. Trust me. I'm just going to start with a couple questions. And then, like I said, you can just answer them in any way that you want.
I'm guzzling caffeine over here. It's
I miss soda. I haven't had it in so long, but I love it.
It's my one vice.
No, me too. I like Fanta orange mostly. There's something about
orange soda. Yeah.
Can you recall a specific moment when you first started to feel yourself awaken or sort of realize like, I might be a little different, in my thinking?
I was born into this. Mm-hmm. I'm a third generation of somebody that's had very psychic gifts. And so my mother was the first one that was sort of born in the family. And in the 60s, nobody knew what to do with this stuff. And my grandmother and her sisters kind of went on this exploration into the study of the science of the metaphysical and all of things, trying to help my mother, which was kind of too late for her. But by the time I was born, they just nurtured me in it. Mm-hmm. So by the time I could talk, essentially, I was a little medium. I was giving messages to people from spirit. So I'm not somebody who went through the typical spiritual awakening because I was kind of born awake and my family nurtured that so that I would keep it.
Okay, that's amazing, honestly.
There's definitely been times in my life where I've tuned out of it and because it was hard to relate to everybody. Mm-hmm. So I've had like a mini spiritual awakenings that kind of turned it back on for me. And I think like when TikTok showed up, that was one of them. I hadn't been, it's always been there, but I wasn't like really in it until I think TikTok came along.
What year would you say that was? It's probably the same year as everyone's. Is it like
2020?
Right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I had been pretty tuned out for probably 2 or 3 years leading up to that, because it's just kind of sometimes hard to make friends, hard to relate, like when you're really in that kind of space up here and everybody else is just going through the motions. So,
trying to get through their life.
Yeah.
I am happy that you were able to have at least someone in your family that was able to nurture this part of you and keep it alive and not let you doubt yourself too much, not lead you astray. So you were never in a Christian religion?
I was raised Christian, but with a caveat. My mother would drop me off like at Sunday school and say, just because these people are the adults doesn't mean they know everything. So you just keep what's true to you and you don't worry about the rest.
Oh, okay.
So
I love that.
she had grown up in a church that was very like footloose, like, you can't dance and all the things, and it had messed her up a little bit. So I was constantly, my family on top of Christianity was also constantly exposing me to these other spiritual ideas on top of it. I grew up in the Bible Belt, right? Like there were 63 churches. We had more churches in my hometown than Buffy Summers had at the Hellmouth, if that gives you any perspective.
Definitely. I mean, you were in Texas. You've always been in Texas?
Yeah.
Okay.
Raised in West Texas. I lived in the Pacific Northwest for a few years, but for the most part, I've been in Texas.
Yeah, definitely a very religious state. So that's very, very common.
My mom taught first grade at a Catholic school for several years. So I love the Catholic religion. It feels very witchy to me.
No, it does. It does. I love all religions. I think they kind of lead to the same. They lead to the same place. You know what I mean?
Same. I identify as an omnist now, which means that I don't identify as any one religion, but I believe that truth can be found in all of them.
Yes, I definitely relate to that. I've called myself that the past few years because I don't follow a specific. Growing up, our parents or our ancestors, they tend to believe in one specific thing and they kind of just pass it on to you and expect you to just take it in and believe it and follow that. I just think it's fascinating how the awakening process tends to be for every individual, which is kind of why I wanted to do this. Were there any major challenges or obstacles you faced that kind of deepened your belief system? Especially that you were saying before, like, I would go in and out, I would go in and out. What do you think pulled you back in?
In terms of challenges, I mean, there's been a lot. Like, talk about growing up in the Bible Belt, I got in trouble a lot for asking too many questions. And was constantly told, like, this is blasphemy, you're not supposed to question God and all of that. So, like, I did get exposed to the indoctrination. It just didn't take to me. And it took until I finally got this, my mother got this Episcopal father to sit down with me and just point blank answer my questions. And I had been really anxious about all of it because it just didn't make sense. Like, I couldn't reconcile with what I understood to be true in being in touch with spirit and talking to past loved ones and all of this my whole life. I couldn't reconcile the concept of like punishment and damnation and all of that with this like loving spiritual energy that I had always known. So I had a lot of anxiety in those early years trying to navigate my way through the church and not understanding why it wasn't resonating with me the way it did, all of my friends. And then finally when that father sat down with me and he kind of point blank answered all of my questions. And I remember leaving that meeting feeling like, okay, I'm okay. Like, I'm fine. I'm not thinking anything wrong. I'm not questioning God. I'm not like blaspheming or anything. But I think the thing that came out of that, which my mother did not tell me until I was in my late 20s, I think, because she didn't want to either freak me out or make me think that I was special or whatever. But he ended up calling her after the fact and told her that I was asking questions that he didn't even contemplate until he entered seminary school.
Wow, that's so interesting.
I don't think that's like a testament to me or anything, like I'm any kind of like advanced place or anything. I think it's a testament to allowing a child the freedom to explore and question things and come to those conclusions. So that was definitely like the first one. Oh my God,
that's very interesting. That, like you said, when you allow a child, especially, or just let's say a soul that is just full of open-mindedness and they just want to learn and they have all these questions about life. I actually love children. I love them so much. They have a lot of wisdom. They ask a lot of questions. So we need to look at them sometimes because I think our heads are a little bit like blocked or we think we know all the answers. So we don't think to ask these other questions. It sounds like he went through, he goes, oh my God, she just asked all these questions that I've never in my life thought to ask or that I've never thought to question. So that's very cool. You opened his mind up a little bit at the ripe age of 10 or however old you were. That's really amazing.
Exactly 10.
Only the age 10 came to my mind. I'm sorry.
That's
I do that
how old
sometimes. Didn't get in trouble for that, right? Nothing happened from that? Or...
It was other churches where I got, because you go to sleepovers and the Bible Belt, and so you'd go on a Saturday night, and then Sunday morning you'd go to church with your friends, whatever church they went to. So I experienced all of the different denominations, pretty much, that you could experience by the time I was 10. Some of them were like, you can't be asking these questions. This is but you're not supposed to question God. But the Episcopal Church, a friend of mine invited me to their youth group, and I started really liking it. And I think my mom went, "Oh, Julie found a church that she likes.
She actually
check it out, right?" She's been kicked out of all the others.
That's so funny. Aww.
At that age, I love Jesus. I still love Jesus.
Right.
I consider that to be, the religion that kind of opened the door into
exactly. I feel that.
For me.
Me too. It will not demonize where I started. You know what I mean? Absolutely not. And I do believe that Jesus was a real being. I 100% believe that. And then he was just here to just raise the awareness, raise the consciousness, raise our soul evolution, and just kind of spread the message that we're all one. Actually, my name is Belen, and I'm Hispanic, so I'm not even from here. I'm actually originally from a small little Latin country called Nicaragua. I was named Belen because in Spanish it means Bethlehem. My mom at the time was very religious, so she named me after the birthplace of Jesus. So I literally, Jesus is always with me.
I was going to ask because I know you as Belle. It's a beautiful name.
Thank you. So, because you were always sort of raised in a spiritual light, but how has it evolved? I'm sure it has evolved in its own way, probably grew stronger. Was there anything that you noticed as a big difference since you were a teen till now?
Oh, yeah. Now I'm very comfortable in it, and I feel like I know what I know, and I never want to feel like I've plateaued. I'm constantly seeking and constantly searching for more. I think that seeking is kind of half the point, right, of this human existence, is to reach out for that. So that part of it's definitely evolved. When I was younger, I went through these phases where I was really into the paranormal and the supernatural, and I wanted to have these crazy psychic experiences where you go deep into meditation and you have all these visuals and all the things. And I still do some of that sometimes, but what I have been brought back to at this point in my life is the spirituality and the mundane.
Yes.
And that the point is to be human and be you and have your human experience and not living so much in the clouds, like you can sometimes with this journey.
Yeah, I think especially in the beginning, we all kind of get like that. We're all...
Sure.
You start and you're like, what does this mean? What does past lives mean? How do I know that I am a psychic? We're all psychic, FYI.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. My whole family hates that word because they're it makes us sound like we're X-Men or something. Yeah. Everybody can do this.
Everyone can. It's just not everyone knows, so they don't even try. Because with this, I do find that you have to be open to it, and then it just floods in. Your intuition, the clairvoyance, the clairaudience, it just floods in. The dreams, but it's really, truly once you start letting it in. That's anybody can do it. We're all sort of blocked, I believe. 100%. Yeah. Blocking ourselves.
I wanted to circle back. You asked me if there's anything what brings me out of it during the times that I've tuned out, which has been 2 or 3 times in my adult life that I've just kind of retracted from all of it, and a couple of times I've been mad at all of it, And I think this last time I had kind of decided I'm too old for this. This is stupid or whatever it is, whatever I had to tell myself to convince myself that I needed to tune out, right? and when I started to come back into it, and just all of the wilder things, the manifestation, all of it, I think I just decided what if I just give myself a month to believe all of it and just see what happens. And that month, and it just,
I love that,
all rolled back in. And I still have doubts. I think that's just a human thing sometimes.
I'm glad that you brought up the fact that now you see spirituality as more grounded, more in the everyday versus before. That's actually such a common experience. That's literally mine as well, where now it's just being in the present moment is as spiritual as you can get, honestly. Just being in the present 100%. Moment. That's really all you need. I'm glad that you said that, because that's actually one of my goals in life, is to help people realize that, teach people how to do that. But I think part of the journey, though, to realize that the most spiritual thing you can do is just be yourself, be human, That's why I dislike it when people want to say you got to eat the best and think positive all the time. And it's that's not human. That's not practical. That's not realistic. What if I want to have my Fanta at least once a month? Please. I'm not any less spiritual. I'm not going to have low vibes for a month because of that. It's a balance for sure.
1 minute you're up here and the next it's like a wave, right?
Yeah, and I'm like, I like that. That's part of why I'm here. I like being up and down. Sometimes when you're
Right.
low, it's bad being low, but then when you're high, you compare to when you were low and you're like, wow, this feels great. I'm back to being up
Sure.
here now. It feels amazing.
I always go back to like the journey of the soul with that. Like if the point was to be in high vibes only and for everything to be perfect, we wouldn't have left the other side, right? Like that's what it is over there. We came here to experience the full spectrum of everything, and sometimes parts of the spectrum are not what we consider to be fun, or beautiful, or but it's experience.
Have you ever had a mystical experience that deepened your connection?
Well, let's get past childhood, because in childhood I just took it all for what it was. I didn't question it. And I'm talking to dead people. It didn't even occur to me to want to worry about that. I think the first really big one was one that I was not alone for. My grandmother and my cousin were both in the living room, and the TV had been skitzing out all day. And my grandmother was kind of hyping about it, like, suddenly this thing will change channel, or the volume will go up and down, or whatever. And we were kind of joking around, and I said, maybe it's a ghost. And as soon as I said that, the TV changed. We looked at each other, and I said, okay, well, if it is a ghost, go to channel 6 for yes. And it went to channel 6.
You're lying.
I swear to God. And I was a teenager, right? Like, so this is like early 2000, maybe 2000, the year 2000 is when this happened. And what proceeded to happen for the next hour was we assigned all of our past loved ones, members of our family that had passed on, numbers, and they all would jump in to go to that number. Like, they would go to their number to say, this is me, and then we could ask them yes or no questions. And we had an hour-long conversation with television. I recognize this sounds insane.
I was gonna say, anybody hearing this conversation be like, what the
right like this, if I had not been there and I had heard the story from somebody else, I wouldn't believe it. Right. And went through the gambit of like, is there any kind of technology that somebody would have that they could change the TV from outside the house?
Because your mind just jumps to the doubt, like looking for the evidence of how it's not possible.
Right. Is somebody screwing with us? Like, there was nobody else in the house. So could, and again, it was the year 2000. So we didn't have a lot of technology that could do that kind of stuff yet. And there being 2 other people there, and the questions that we were able to ask, the verifications that we were able to get to know for certain that these were these family members. Because my grandmother lost both of her sons before I was born. We'd lost a lot. My family's been through a lot. We have joked sometimes that we were cursed because we meet up so often at funerals. I think it partly contributed to who we became.
No, for sure.
Coming out of that experience, what can you do? Right. Like, we just had an hour-long conversation with the TV, and we can't explain it. Like, And then there was one question I remember asking my grandfather, because he was there, and I asked him, are you proud of me? And we had gone to 6 for yes, right? And 6s flooded the screen.
No way.
And again, that should not have been technologically
Absolutely.
possible.
That sounds like it defies logic, which these things usually do. They defy all logic. Was the TV working after that?
The rest of its existence, never did it again.
Oh, okay. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Poor TV has been through it.
She had that TV for, I think, 3 or 4 more years before I went and found her another one. This is a story I've never told on TikTok because it sounds so insane.
It just sounds real by the way that it's making me feel. That's insane. Yeah. Wow. Okay, well, thank you for sharing that.
Spirit likes to mess with electrical stuff, I've learned.
Yeah, no, they really do. Like, sometimes you go in the car and this random song will be on that you were just thinking about it, or you just heard it somewhere else, or you were just singing it in your head. And you're like, how does that happen? I think sometimes it might be the only way that they can communicate through us.
I think maybe that's just like maybe the easiest access energy to tap into.
What old beliefs or habits did you have to let go of to step into a more higher version of yourself? Or
I had kind of a difficult childhood. And so came out of it, I think, with a pretty low sense of self-worth. You wouldn't guess this now, but when I was your age, I was painfully shy, very, like, almost kind of mousy. I've since become a journalist, and it's kind of hard to go up and do that job if you're afraid to. That, I think, probably the typical stuff that everybody has, parental issues that left scars and things like that I had to overcome, and a lot of body imagery. I still work on that. Like, I don't feel like I've ever properly felt pretty a day in my life, like things like that. But just like self-worth was a big big one for me.
Okay, so you had to let go of the limiting belief that you're not worthy if you're not pretty, if you don't have the money, if you're not known. Everyone deals with these self-worth issues like on a different level. So you could feel not worthy because of your financial status. I never felt worthy growing up because of where I came from. I came from a very, very poor family. We couldn't afford anything. I had to share everything. I never had any physical possessions of my own. And I always felt so insecure, not even for my looks, but from where I came, my family, which is even worse. I can't change that. I just had to learn you came where you came from for a reason. So that's one of mine for sure. Your job is to figure out limiting belief, which insecurity is stopping you from asserting yourself.
And being raised in touch with spirit, and this spiritual didn't save me from having to go through those same human lessons.
Yeah.
Right? Sometimes I worry that people look at me like, well, you've been this way for forever. Your life must have been so easy if you've always understood this stuff. And I was like, hell no. No, I'm still human and have all the human baggage, and you still do.
I'm glad you brought that up because I didn't even realize how people can look at that and kind of compare. I can't see how it would be easier on you. This journey is not easy at all.
Well, and I think a lot of people think that getting onto these paths will fix everything for them. And it certainly helps with your healing and guidance and all of that, especially getting really in touch with your spirit guides. But it's not going to save you from the human experience.
It's really not. Through that. You just have to go through it. The only thing that can save you is just to go through it. You and a breath. You and your breath. You and your patience. How do you view suffering or pain now? How did you view it back then?
Sure. I was a very angry teenager, and really a big chunk of my 20s just kind of in this screw the world phase. I was very angry about a lot of the things that I had to go through that seemed so unfair that other people had gone through gradually. And it did take time where I was able to look back and say, well, if I hadn't gone through this, then I wouldn't be this kind of person. Right. Yeah. So it has evolved into, I know anything that is negative is here to teach me something. It is here for my benefit, or it is here to put me in the right place. Yes. Like this last one, I'm sure you saw some of that, like where ChatGPT came out and killed the freelance market, and I lost my dog from cancer, lost all of my savings for a year of unemployment, lost my house, had to go back home and move in with my parents, which is like mortifying when you're in your late 30s, right? And so, Capricorns are like, we're stable and we're strong and we don't financially fail. Like whatever we do, we will have our foundation.
You're Capricorns because you're just telling yourself, I have to have it all figured out. I'm supposed to just be on my grind. What's happening?
Stuff doesn't happen to me. I can always find work. I can always find a way to make money, right? And for a year, I couldn't. Like, it didn't matter what I did. And Spirit kept telling me, like, rest. It's okay. We got this. Rest. Because, this may be the last time you get this kind of rest again. And what ended up happening is my brother got hurt and lost his leg. And had I not been in that position that Spirit, the world, the universe had put me in, like on my ass at my parents' house, I wouldn't have been there for him when that happened, because I was then, usually I'm the caretaker in the family. When somebody gets sick, I'm the one that's by the bedside and seeing them through everything. And that entire year I had been trying to get out of there. I'm like, I'm going back to the Pacific Northwest. I'm going to Dallas. I'm going to Austin. I'm going like just anywhere I can get to find work. Was trying to just, because it seemed like there was nothing available to me locally. Okay. And then like almost as soon as my brother got through what he got through, like once he was like kind of getting set up, I had essentially my dream job come in, like, and I wouldn't have been, we had come to the city for his doctor's appointments and had worked out to having a place to stay. And so I had a place to stay in the city where I was offered this dream job until I got on my feet so that I could, like it just literally all lined up.
And only because you were going through these challenges, Spirit was guiding you that way. You were like, what is happening? I don't want to do that. And look where it led you. It not only led you to where you needed to be, which was your dream job, which is what you were asking for. It also led you to help someone else in need. So I love that. Sometimes we are being guided a certain way, not only just for us, but also for someone else.
Sure.
We're supposed to be there for them.
Yeah, we're a community here.
Like many people, potentially watching this, we see pain and suffering as, what can this teach me? Okay. We don't fall victim to it anymore. I'm noticing, at least I don't, I definitely used to have that victim mindset. I'm a Pisces, so I can't help it. I think the world's out to get me sometimes. To be fair, I still think that sometimes, like, oh my God, why me? You know, you look around and you're like, but they have that, and why can't
that year, which I think was like 2023, that was so hard. It was probably the first time in my life where like I could consistently keep that in the back of my head, like this is where I'm supposed to be, it's going to be okay, you know, all that. But I was still having days where I was so depressed and like just all day crying in bed, and really wanted to be clear that there was still some suffering there, but that in the back of my mind there was like there's a purpose for it, right? And keep that, trust it.
Just don't think that spirit or God or source, whoever, would just let people suffer for no reason. I believe that there has to be, that's kind of everyone that believes in a religion, right? We all need to believe in something to not cry every day. But it's just all about perspective. I believe suffering and pain have to have a reason. They can't just not have a reason.
Think about children. You know, how many kids have you seen that like won't take your word for it that something's hot and they go and touch it anyway, right? Like we learn through trial and error.
Humans won't learn. We learn the hard way. Okay. Sorry, spirit. Like no, seriously. They love us. It's okay. They love us for it. We're entertaining. We're probably the most entertaining species out there.
Reality TV for the rest of the universe.
Are there any spiritual practices or tools that you like use to this day, you know, that kind of help you ground yourself? Like maybe journaling, meditating, yoga?
I meditate regularly and have been since I was a teenager. I think that's the most vital tool that I have. I think you need to slow yourself down sometimes, and you need to get in touch with whatever you perceive spirit to be. You know, angels, past loved ones, God, deities, any of it. To me, it's all the same thing, right? So I think you need to take out time, like schedule time if you have to be in touch with that. Then a lot of it is self-care. I think society tries to push us into a certain way of operating, and you know, resting and things like that start to feel like you're doing something wrong if you're taking a break or if you're taking a nap or you know, whatever it is. So I think being really protective of my peace and my energy is pretty vital.
Yeah, I would say please as a Capricorn sun, please incorporate that. Don't miss out on that.
There have definitely been times in my life where I've worked myself too hard. Yeah, we can't help it.
I just think it's so easy to overwork yourself in this matrix. You have to take time for rest.
I think our life expectancy is shortened in America partly to stress.
Meditating, mindfulness, relaxing, self-care, 100%, I believe, or not the only tools, but one of the greatest tools you can do to just incorporate a little bit more spirit in your everyday.
Yeah, and it's easier to access that stuff from a calm nervous system. Like if you're anxious and emotionally heightened and all of that, it is so much harder to perceive whatever the universe is trying to tell you.
Very true. You're going to lose yourself in the process. Do you believe that there's a specific mission or message that you're here to give out to the world?
I think for me, and I'm just thinking about my TikTok and what I have focused on, I think for me, it's been getting back in touch with yourself and your own history and where you come from and where your roots are and how that all contributes to who you are. But mostly for me, I think it's just that all of this is so normal. You know, like whether it's the psychic stuff or the spiritual stuff or whatever it is, it's normal.
In what ways do you feel you are continuously evolving spiritually, or is there an end goal, or is the journey the most important part to you?
I think the journey is the reward. I think the destination is death. I think the journey is the whole point.
I think that's what I would answer too. And I think most people would answer that. Definitely the journey is the funnest part. Absolutely. We kind of spoke a little bit more on that earlier, but 100%.
I think there's maybe a goal for the collective, which is to reunite the community and spiritual connection.
Glad you said that. The end goal would be more so for the collective, but on an individual sort of plane, it would just be our individual journey. Yeah. On an individual level, we're not going to have an end goal.
Right. You're here to be you and have your experience and trust that contributes to this whole collective mission.
That's very amazing that you said it like that. And that's kind of what I'm hoping that this helps everyone figure out. How did your individual awakening story help that person? Which leads me to the next question. I didn't write it down, but I was hoping I didn't forget. Was there a specific person that, you know, you really looked up to when it came to this growing up?
Yeah, there were a couple. My grandmother she was not as like psychic or anything like that, but she went out of her way to point out people who were, so that I would continue to feel normal. No. So I was very grateful for that. But in terms of navigating it, my Uncle David, he became very adept at his gifts. He was probably the one that taught me how to meditate. and how to, he was an adept astral projector. Like he could manifest $1 million. This man made $1 million and lost it like several times over in his life. He would go off and he would manifest $1 million idea and go and make that money and then stop working for the next like 2 or 3 years and just live off that money and then do it again. Right. Because he had learned that he could. So he and especially times where I was perceiving stuff that wasn't as fun. Because, you know, sometimes the spirit world's creepy.
Yeah.
He was vital in helping me through that and reminding me that there's nothing out there that's like any more powerful than what's in you.
Sounds so woo-woo to say, but it's just so true. First of all, I love that you had at least had a mentor that you looked up to that taught you some stuff. But the point behind that question was just for me to see, you know, where there's a correlation. Who woke who up? Basically is the question that I'm really wondering. Who woke you up? I know that you said you were kind of already like really introduced to it through your family. So I'm going to say your family. Your soul decided to incarnate into a family that was, that kind of had the template here for this already. So I'm glad that's amazing. There's people along the way that have to help with that. You know, I'm glad that your uncle assisted you in finding who you are and awakening you. That's amazing.
Yeah, I think we find each other, right? Like I have, because it was so prevalent in my family, I got to witness people who were drawn into our orbit, and that caused a spiritual awakening, right?
I love
and
that.
I think you're spot on. Sometimes it's a person, sometimes it's a
group.
Right. Or a tragedy, or it's hitting rock bottom and you have nowhere else to go. And that's where you go.
Yes, that's actually, that's exactly why I wanted to do this. I wanted to find out who woke you up? What woke you up? I'm just so curious, because I look around online or anyone else and I'm like, oh my God, these amazing, wonderful, beautiful humans. Like, how did you get here? I just kept wondering that. Every single TikTok I saw of somebody speaking about this, I'm like, how did you get there? Who are you? Who are you? Like, it sounds so weird to say. Yeah, right? Like,
well, from my end, like I was born into it. So I didn't know that. I don't think I was properly aware that it could just happen to somebody.
Yes.
You know, I was a little bit older. I knew it before TikTok, but not to that extent.
I'm here. I'm nosy.
I'm a journalist. I'm nosy for a living. So
right.
Keep at it.
That is so cool. And were you always a journalist? No, right?
No. I mean, I started when I was 21. I wanted to be an actress. I went to film school.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, I studied screenwriting and theater and all of the things. That was what I wanted to do.
Oh, it's so cool.
But it was hard to break into from West Texas. So I think my first favorite writer was Mark Twain, who, you know, kind of, he didn't have anything to write about, so he went out and had his own adventures. So I think I got into journalism as a way to, I always knew I was going to be a writer in one way, shape, or form. I've just been that way since I could pick up a pen, was writing stories and things like that. So I went into journalism originally as a way to have more life experience, you know, to talk to people that I wouldn't otherwise talk to from different walks of life, and you know, be exposed to things that there was no other way to be exposed to. And then I was good at it, and so it kind of stuck. That. I tried several times to go back to acting, and there have been opportunities along the way, but I've always been kind of drawn back this direction. I don't know if maybe it's still in my future or whatever, because sometimes it gets put back in front of me. But no, that from my first 20 years of life, that was my dream, was to be an actress and be in the movies.
I feel like a lot of us have that dream for sure, where we're just like, I want to be seen, I want to be known. And if you still feel that call, I would say definitely go for it. You know, see what's out there. You never know. That's what I always say. I use that motto a lot growing up, and that's the only thing that got me here. You know, whether it was shooting your shot, applying for that scholarship that I didn't know I was going to get, or whatever it was, I just said, hey, you never know. It was my mom's favorite motto, to be honest with you. So I just got it from her. My mom was very delusional growing up. And I don't mean a bad way, I mean a good way. Where she would just be like, no, you never know, go ask. I'm like, really? She was like, just go ask. And lo and behold, we got the house, or we got the extra money. She really did some magic, my mom, honestly. We weren't very spiritual. She didn't really. However, through her actions, I still saw what God was doing. God was giving her things. We were receiving things, you know, like at the time where we needed them. And I go, this cannot just be my mom's doing. Like, don't get me wrong, she's a superhero, but we have God on our side. So even though we weren't necessarily like the most religious, or, you know, she didn't really nail it in us, through her actions, through what was happening around me, I could just tell the universe was doing around us and how we were always okay at the end of the day. We were always provided for. I don't know how to explain it. We just had people along the way. God sent angels that would help us. And that's when I knew. I was putting the puzzle pieces slowly until I was maybe 19, 20, and I go, oh my God, this is what this is. It's always been in me though, in my family, it's in everyone. Like this help,
Sure.
this feeling of like, you're okay though. I never knew how to describe it. I just always knew my family's always okay. Despite the crazy stuff we go through, we're always okay.
Right? I've had some similar revelations. Like, we've been through some stuff, and I've been like an inch away from living in my car, and then something would happen. And yeah.
You're saved. And you're like, what? I was okay this entire time. I was freaking out. I mean, I was ready to cry. I was ready to tell TikTok goodbye. I'm going to jail. Like, whatever it is that you think, like, you're not. You're always okay. Never did we not have what we needed. Never. It's astonishing to really live through. It's crazy. Okay, but do you believe in the existence of life beyond physical, such as the afterlife and reincarnation and just other realms?
I believe our soul is multidimensional and is experiencing Lord knows how many incarnations at the same time.
Right.
Time and space, right?
Yeah. I just know I believe in it. I just know I don't know everything about it, though. I definitely believe that to my core. There's no way that someone like us, someone like you, someone like anybody watching this is just going to poof. Like, you're not. I just don't believe that. I don't feel that. It doesn't scare me to think that, though, but I just don't believe it.
Science tells us that energy doesn't disappear. It just
Exactly.
changes,
right? 100%. I would say a lot of people probably would relate to that and probably agree with that. What advice would you give to someone who is just beginning to explore their path?
Oh, trust yourself. Trust what you are intuitively being drawn to, that there's a reason that you're being drawn to it. Exploring it doesn't mean that you're committing to it. You know, you can learn from everything. And just keep seeking. Just keep, questioning, keep asking questions.
One amazing thing that you can do on this journey, question everything, literally.
And don't ever think that you know anything, because I have had different perceptions of the universe over and over and over again, and it's constantly evolving. So don't let yourself get trapped into one belief system. Like, believe what you want to believe and believe what feels true and what feels right to you, but also leave room for the fact that there could be more. It could be more to it.
Yes, leave that small 1% for the what if, for the new to come in. I love that, actually. That's so true. It could be a little bit of ego if you think you know everything, you know?
Yeah.
You will never know everything. And then if you know everything, how can you be a learner here on this plane? Because we're supposed to be learners. So we have to have a balance. So I love that. I love that you said it like that. And this question is more like a personal one, because I have some people in my life that are currently awakening themselves. Some of my friends are awakening, and sometimes they have this period of doubt, or like, or they see this really bad video telling them that they're crazy, and then they kind of feel really bad for that week because they think, am I crazy? So I'll follow up with that question just a little bit. What would you do if this was you? What advice can you give, let's say my friends, when they feel like, because they're new at this, so they're still trying to establish that sense of belief in themselves. So what would you say to them? What would you do if that was you?
Well, first of all, one of my specialties as a journalist has been mental health, and crazy people don't think they're crazy. They don't question if they're crazy. So if you were in psychosis, you wouldn't be questioning it. You would just think it was all real, right?
That's true.
And like I told you earlier, I've had a couple of experiences where I was like, this is too big, this is too grandiose, this is too weird, this is too wild. I have clearly lost my mind, right? Like, I think it's normal the more that you experience, sometimes thinking like, this is crazy. This is not, I just told you a story about talking to a TV. Like, it's gonna happen. I think stay grounded. Have at least one good friend that knows what you're going through, that you can bounce ideas of constantly. Like, am I crazy, or is this happening? Or this is my perception, or, whatever it is, so that you can have unbiased feedback, coming back at you. Yeah, just like trust the process. If you're getting like really off the rails, because like spiritual psychosis can be a thing, but I think the people on TikTok make it seem like the spirituality will cause the psychosis, but realistically, you have to be the kind of psychological profile that is already predisposed to psychosis. It's just that some people, it's spirituality and aliens and the things, and then for some people, it's the FBI is watching me. It's gonna manifest in whatever form you're feeding your brain with.
That question is more so for my friend if she watches, because she's a little new at it, and she's sometimes she sees stuff and she'll come to me and say, "Did you see this?" or "What do you think about what she said?" And I'm like, "What do you mean? What do I think? I think what I think. I don't care what she thinks." You know, like yeah, no, it's hard though. I remember when I was beginning, it's hard. It was so hard to do that. But that's what belief is. No evidence. It's just you believing in something that has no physical proof, and you're just blindly following it. That's hard. That's hard because if someone's telling you you're crazy for following something you can't see.
Faith moves mountains, right?
Faith literally does move mountains. And that's kind of what I remind her, like, hey, well, that's what faith is. You know, you choose what you want to believe. You want to believe this random stranger that's telling you you're crazy, or do you want to believe your heart? So that's what I tell her all the time. And I'm glad that you said that it's good to have someone you can talk to about this, because it makes it a little easier. It does make it a little easier.
Just about to say, for your friend, it's healthy that she's bringing that stuff to you and like questioning it, and like, you know, that's a sign of a healthy brain. So
exactly. I'm glad you said that. I'll let her know that, because I didn't think to tell her that, to tell her like, hey, if you were really crazy, you wouldn't really be talking about how crazy you were. You would just be crazy. Thank you.
Your friends would be going, are you okay? Like,
right. So then I think I'll ask one more ending question. How do you view death in relation to awakening spiritually? Has your awakening altered the way you perceive it? Did the spirituality bring you any comfort?
Sure. So I feel like the reason that my family became what it became is because we had to deal with so much death and grief and reconciling with that. So I think being born very mediumistic kind of left me no doubt with the fact, with understanding that there is life beyond, because I was able to tell people things at 3 and 4 years old that there was absolutely no way for a 3 or 4 year old to know, you know, like very adult conversations that I've had with messages that I had delivered. I have gone through phases where I've been afraid of it, you know, like, is it gonna hurt? Is it gonna, you know, is it gonna be scary, or is it gonna, but I am so certain that that's not the end. It's just a transition. It's just it's a new beginning.
Yeah, it's a new beginning. You're just ending this chapter here, you're starting the other one there. I do kind of hate how in society we kind of tend to see death as something that was going to hurt so much. I don't think, you know, because I think it's a natural part of human existence. So why would it hurt so much? There's no way. There's no way. Like, I just can't believe that. I do believe that there is some peace in it. There has to be some sort of, it's because it's a natural process, you know? So I don't think a natural process would just be pain. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I've studied a lot of near-death experiences at this point, and I had a couple family members that have been in some like pretty horrific car accidents and everything, and they all come back with like, I didn't feel a thing. It was more like, oh crap, I'm about to die, in this very calm way, and then, you know, whatever happens.
I watch a lot of those too. A little bit more than I should.
They came back with an experience I want to hear about. Even our bodies have backups to make sure that we're not in, you know, it'll flood your brain with essentially, what is it, like the DMT chemical at death to keep you comfortable.
Because you think about it, your body knows. It knows how it was birth. It did what it had to do. It naturally breathes for you. It naturally beats your heart for you. It'll naturally just pass away for you in the way that it was intended to do. Thank you so much for sharing that. I definitely agree with you. It's just so interesting how people can be led to the awakening of their soul in so many different ways. But like we said, it all is going to lead back to the same soul knowing. Yeah. How are we all getting these different information, but coming back to the same source?
And I almost feel like in some ways I'm a testament to that, because I wasn't exposed to like any of these like new age books when I was young, but I was in touch with spirit, so that when I read them, they were just validating the experience. But you're right. I have not met a single person that has come to this understanding in the same way as anybody else. We all have our own path to it.
Sounds like you were a true journalist at heart then, because you were rapping about it at age 3, wanting to just figure it out. Like,
I had a little Harriet the Spy notebook when I was a kid, and yeah.
Oh, really? I love that. What I always say to everyone, we have skills that we have that are just natural to us, but we also have skills that we're here to learn. Yeah. Might not be the most natural ones to us, but we're also here to learn them. This is definitely more of a skill that I'm learning, not so much that I have. So thank you for helping me so much and trying to spread our message out to the world, because I want people to look at this and say, this is everyone's message. Like, this is not just me. I'm just a channel for the information, but I'm not the information, guys. Sorry that I took up a little bit more of your time. So thank you so much.
I've been watching you for years, and it's a joy to watch your journey. I think those of us that really have this like spiritual I think we have this like kind of deep down awareness that we're supposed to be in front of people and talking and sharing messages. Yeah. And we interpret that maybe younger, like when I was young, maybe I interpreted that as I'm supposed to be an actor. I'm supposed to be, you know, in front of people. And that was the only understanding I have of somebody that was in front of people, right?
I think that you're onto something. I think that we were meant to spread our message to the collective. We were going to be in front of a group of people, our group of people, right? I look forward to talking with you again. Thank you so much. I hope that, you know, the listeners can get to enjoy your story, enjoy a little bit more about you, what you believe, and they can hopefully feel a little bit closer to the collective. I want listeners to look at this and not feel so alone, not feel so crazy.
I'm sure they will. I hope so. I hope so.
I'm gonna leave you to your Friday night now. I won't be doing anything. I literally I made no plans out for this.
Me neither. I'm movies for the rest of the night, I think, and ordering takeout.
Me too. I'm not surprised that you did radio shows, or like you could even do like ASMR. Your voice is it's lovely. I don't know if you've ever gotten that.
Thank you. I worry about as I drop in and out of that southern accent. Like sometimes it's real thick.
You've seen those videos on TikTok where it's like when the accent suddenly comes out. I don't know if you've seen the that it's okay. Me too. I'm Hispanic, so I get you.
And then like it depends on like if I'm working with a lot of like city people and my accent goes away, and then I'll do and I wonder if like do people think I'm faking my accent? Like it just comes and goes. Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining me, Julie. And I definitely want to speak to you again, but who knows when, because I don't know how long it'll take me to actually publish this. Thank you so much. I hope you have a good Friday and a good weekend.
I hope you do too.
Thank you.
Wish me rest. That's what I need now. Sleeping late in the morning.
Remember to rest, my little Capricorn friend. I'll see you on TikTok or next time.
All right.
Thank you.
I'll see you later.
Bye.
Bye.